What is the weirdest or creepiest Earth or space fact you know? There is a squid called the big fin squid that we've only seen 3 times. Their tentacles are so long they reach to the seafloor. About 20 to 26 feet long, and scientists say the ones we've seen are more than likely not adults. They even have elbows. We don't really know much about them since they are rarely seen. Look on Google and you'll see how scary they are. And yes, they are in the deep ocean, approx 5,000 feet deep. At least when it's swimming around it looks more normal. I don't like the implication of opposed to walking that your comment suggests. The exact middle of nowhere is 4,852. 6s 12,323. 6 watts. It's a spot in the Pacific Ocean named Point Nemo that's 2,688 kilometers 1,451 nautical miles from nearest land. It's roughly between New Zealand and South America. More specifically, Point Nemo is between the Easter Islands, the Pitcairn Islands, and Antarctica. Suppose you were in a ship that sank at Point Nemo and you had to climb into a life raft. If you were on your own without a radio, just paddling and collecting rainwater and catching fish, then if you could travel 20 miles a day it would take 2.5 months to reach nearest land. You navigated perfectly. There's stars below you right now. There is no true bottom of things. The enemy gate is down. The further away a galaxy is, the smaller it looks to us. That makes sense. However, there comes a point beyond which the further away it is, the larger it looks. That's because when the light left it, the universe was smaller. The galaxy was closer. So it filled a larger area of sky. Source: The End of Everything. Astrophysically Speaking by Katie Mack. Earth has had a nuclear reactor before humans were even around. There are individual stars that are bigger than the distance from the Earth to the Sun. This is more interesting than weird, but I'll say it anyway. Theoretically, if an alien living on a planet 200 million light years away had a device by which they could view Earth, due to the 200 light years gap in light reach, instead of seeing humans through the device, aliens would instead see dinosaurs from the Jurassic period, since that's the era from which the light has reached till that point. 232 million years ago it rained for about 1 to 2 million years non-stop. Undefined. There have been tsunamis called megatsunamis as high as hundreds of meters. In 1958 there was one in Lituya Bay over 500 m 1700 ft. Cowabunga. The Pillars of Creation is massive. The height of one of the pillars is 4 light years. An endless road trip for us. Everyone knows the heavenly bodies are giant. Almost unthinkable. But the reality also is that life scales down just as much. And maybe even farther. Then it would scale up. We have bacteria, atoms, proteins and the likes that all do their part making up the very fabrics of reality we inhabit. In my opinion, the greatest space and Earth fact is that we managed to find existence here in the middle of ginormous and minuscule. Neutron stars can emit death beams that travel at the speed of light. So glad the sun isn't one of them. That if the sun was replaced by a black hole we would not fall in. We would all freeze to death first. Well, yeah. If our sun was replaced with a black hole of equal mass our orbit would not change. I don't know why. But the fact that one day, the last star will die out and the universe will be pitch black is a little disturbing to me. Super flares happen on every star. Which includes our own sun. But since the sun is a rather old and quiet star, it only happens every other 1,000 years or so. But they happen. And it's not a matter if, but when it happens. A superflare from the sun wouldn't be that deadly and devastating as it sounds. But it would be enough to roast satellite communication, cause global blackouts and a thick layer of radiation around Earth. Scientists guess the next superflare will occur within the next 100 years. Anyway, have a nice day. That when you're looking out at the stars in the sky, there's planets that aren't in their own solar systems hidden in plain sight. They're not visible due to there being no light from a sun to illuminate them. If anything, they just look like a pitch black void of darkness. Even if the moon had a breathable atmosphere, the dust in the air would slice the inside of your throat open in seconds. The surface of Mercury can reach lows of 290 F180 C despite being so close to the sun. I know I'm late to this, but what really freaks me out about space is that so much of what we see is from millions of years ago. If we can only see what that star looked like millions of years ago, what does it actually look like today? It's been suggested that the reason we have no evidence of intelligence beyond our planet is not the vast distances, But the brief blip of time intelligence exists before destroying itself isn't long enough for two distinct spacefaring cultures to interact. The biggest black hole yet discovered is millions on times bigger than the whole solar system. In our galaxy, a star goes supernova roughly once every 50 years. That seems to be the universal average rate of galaxies having stars going supernova. There are so many galaxies in the known universe that there are roughly 50 stars turning into supernovas every second. That objects don't actually have color. Our eyes just assign a color to the wavelength of light an object reflects. Deep sea giantism. There are species that live deep underwater that are massive compared to their shallow water counterparts. The only way we've come across them is when they've washed up on shore or were caught by fishermen because they wandered into more shallow water. But we really have no idea what the scope or scale of how large these creatures can get because we can't study them at the depth in which they live. For all we know, the found creatures were babies that were separated from their mothers. There's millions of black holes that are millions of times bigger than the Earth that are just randomly hurtling through space at insane speeds like pinballs in a pinball machine. Sleep tight. The fact that everything in our above-average-sized galaxy is gravitationally bound to one of the smallest supermassive black holes we know of. And we are on a collision course with Andromeda. Earth would have become and remained a frozen ball of ice 1,000 years after it was formed. We owe our existence on this planet since life began to one thing: volcanoes. Their continuous eruptions and rise of magma did with creating the Earth's magnetic field, the ozone, the atmosphere, and thanks to the sun's gravitational pull, an elliptical orbit and climate. Whales evolved from prehistoric wolves. There's sharks in a volcano. And they're still alive and swimming. Marine biologists. Sharks are fragile and need our help. Their species can't survive on their own. Meanwhile, sharks, at any moment, anywhere in the known universe, could be a vacuum metastability event. The results of this event would be a massively exothermic shock propagating at the speed of light. That would tear the entire universe down to a lower energy state. Nothing we know would remain. Nothing that could exist in this new universe would be familiar. This event could happen at any point, anywhere in the universe. And we will someday just be struck by its shockwave and everything we know will be obliterated in an instant. And there's literally nothing to be done in that case. It seems like most things in here about space, but really the depth and amount unknown about the ocean is insane. The Mariana Trench is 6 miles deep. All of the planets in our solar system, not including the Sun, can fit in between the Earth and the Moon. If you head to event horizon of a black hole and somehow leave without dying, you would find that eons have passed. Yeah, this would be a great way to travel into the future. Go into orbit around a black hole or large star for a bit. Come back to Earth. And hopefully by then biological immortality will be free to the public. Profit. In space. No one can hear you in space. That there are fish fossils in the marble on Everest. At one point a lot of the biggest mountain on Earth was underwater. Does it not just haunt you guys that given you're in the right geographical area, a major earthquake could occur at any time without warning? Or even Yellowstone in the US. No one can know how devastating it'll be. And for all you know, you're just waking up to a regular day, having your morning coffee, feeding the cat, and then boom, you lose everything. Probably the fact that there are countless planets in our galaxy that don't have a home star for whatever reason. We haven't explored our oceans a lot. On the internet it says that about 8%. That means there's some crazy creature we might not even know is real. I remember reading about how all of the atoms that make up a chair you're sitting in could theoretically line up and you could fall through the empty space. Statistically a very low chance of happening. Doesn't make it better when I think about this while flying 35,000 feet in the air. Some of Jupiter's moons are very small. The surface area the size of a small island. Can you imagine if your whole world was the size of an island? And all you could see was the gigantic surface of Jupiter in the sky? Spherically, the Earth is about as smooth as a billiard ball. Even with Everest and the deepest parts of the oceans, they barely even register on the grand scene. Earth fact: there is a type of octopus called a blanket octopus. They have a large blanket, usually longer than the rest of their body, at rest. The worst part is that they're freaking huge and super colorful. Space fact: We have pretty much no way of proving that there aren't fourth or more dimensional beings that we just don't see.